we are now ready to start assembling the bag. Woohoo! So when we start assembling it, we're going to start with probably one of the most, well, the part that many people would probably find challenging, and that's the zipper. We want to do that back part, because it's the part that's against your back, where you actually enter the bag. So it's with the back flap. If you've made the H2O to go, you're going to have no problem with this. It really is the same. In fact, I find it easier than the H2O to go, sewing all this together. So we're going to start by pulling out the exterior front flap. I am big on tape, so I've taped all the way around it. I've taped all the way around all of my pieces of this section of the bag. I just find it so much easier. I say this section. I will also be taping around my side panels. I tape around it all. It goes together so much more easily if I can tape. I may also do some stapling. We'll see. Not on this part, but we'll see as we get there. So what we want to do first is attach the zipper to this. So as I said, if you've worked with the H2O to go, it's very similar. We've got this main panel here. This would have been similar to the front pocket. And we want to center our zipper tape right here. So I do have a notch cut already out the top of my panel. I'm just marked the center on my zipper tape. And I'm going to just clip a little bit. We're not going to clip all the way around yet. So I like to clip just like this at the top, just straight across. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our tabs and we're going to align them up the very bottom. And we're going to start clipping there. And I do one at a time. I'm not going to do the other one yet. And I'm now going to start coming up and around and clipping the tape in place on the edge of the panel. And when you get to that curve, I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but it will go in. Just sort of flip it up. Don't be afraid. I mean, I leave mine zipped. Some people might unzip it. I tend to leave it zipped. I like having more zipper tape there to play with. So that's just me. So just kind of get that in there. This does feel, I hope I didn't, no, I'm sure I didn't cut this incorrectly. I've made so many of these, but that is really tight. Okay, let's see. There we go. It's really tight, but you know, frankly, you want it to be tight. So. And sometimes what I'll do is I will then start kind of easing it in a little bit. I'll take off some clips and ease it a little bit so you can see there's a little bit of a gap there. So I just took off some clips and I'm slowly kind of easing that into the rest down here. Let's see. It's, there we go. Flatten that out. And this is where I find the tape helps, because as I start to do that, the tape kind of helps to flatten it down. There we go. There. As you can see, I worked it in. So it's just a matter of working it in. And in fact, I could work it in a little bit closer to the edge right there. I want to try to get it as close to that edge. But that's what I do. I mean, it is tight. And this is not something where we can't snip into anything here. You can't snip into your tape. So first, so I started, just clipped a little bit here, then started on the side, started working my way up, and then depending on what I needed to do, just sort of worked my way back down a little bit too, to get it to lay nicely. So we're going to do the same on the other side. It took a little wiggling here and there, but I've got it all on. This is where I will most definitely baste first. I'm going to baste it at 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to, let's see, This is another one where you can decide if you like to have the zippers open or closed. I like to have them closed because I just feel I have more to pull on to try to help keep everything straight. Because on these curves, this zipper tape is going to want to try to bunch up on you. I'll move this down a little. And the more I can pull, I feel the better job I do keeping it straight while I sew it on. You can also use a stiletto here. I will be using my screwdriver to help keep it down. Stilettos are great for that as well. So whatever's going to work for you there. Let me try to get this so you can see. So, but I need to really focus on it. So I'm just basting right now. Basting at that 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so I can even see, it's hard to see here, I'm going to put more clips on. As you're doing it, put clips on if you need to. I can see my tape starting to pull away from certain places, and so I'm clipping more. This really is a project where you need lots of clips, so don't be afraid to use a ton. Right here, so I'm going to pull away. Got my foot, actually no, when I'm sort of fiddling in here, I take my foot off the pedal because I do not want to risk sewing over my fingers. And so I'll kind of put my finger in there. I move the zipper tape closer to the edge again until I could get there. So because it really wants to come away. It doesn't like being so tight around that curve. Again, my foot is off the pedal. I'm putting, I know it's hard to see, I'm putting my fingernail, the little bit, or my finger underneath to help push the zipper tape to the edge, and then I'm using my screwdriver to hold it in place. I'm doing the same here, just kind of getting it there, holding it in place. Then you're on the straight edge, that's always everyone's favorite. Coming to my curve again. So I know it might be hard to see because this is curling up. But as I said, I've got my foot off of my pedal, so I can use my finger first to bring the zipper tape as close as possible to the edge. And then use my screwdriver to hold it there. Even just a few stitches. I'm not even going that far. I just really want that to be as close to the edge as possible. There we go. Okay, foot off the pedal, holding the tape over. There we go. And we're coming up to a straight edge again. So I'm going to move my zippers out of the way, my zipper pulls. And on the straight. Okay, that side's done. So what I try to do for this next part, we need to put the lining side on. I will bring my zipper pulls closer to the side where I'm going to be sewing, because that way I can just sort of go up a certain point to a certain point, then move my zipper pulls down, and then not have to worry about the rest of it. So I'm going to take my interior, my lining piece, that has tape on it too. We're going to do right sides together. We're just doing a zipper sandwich. So right sides together. You can still see my center marks for both my lining and my exterior and my zipper tape, so I can line those all up. Now, even though the tape is already, obviously adhered, I could just clip all the way around, but I tend to do the same thing with the lining that I did with the exterior. I'm going to start with a few on the top. And I'm going to go to one side and I'll line it there. And then I'm going to be pushing in my zipper tape. The zipper tape is just not going to want to do this. And so I will often, you can feel it. And this is part of the reason I also like to keep it zipped when I do this, is I can feel the tape itself and I can sort of push it out of the way. I can feel when it starts to bunch up onto itself. And when it's all together like this, I can feel it and I can sort of flatten it out enough so that I can put a clip right up against the teeth. And that helps to hold it from, sort of hold it in place and it doesn't bunch up on itself there. So we're going to do this all around. Not a problem on the straight edges. So the other side. So what I'm going to take off a couple here, because what I will do eventually, take a third one off, is reach inside to move those pulls around. So we're going to start first. Let me see. Do I want to put them up a little more? Maybe a smidgen more. I'm going to actually just go reach inside and push them up just a little bit more. I want to do sew a little bit more of the tape before I have to move them. There we go. So we're going to sew per the seam allowance in the pattern all the way around. As you do it, sort of feel the tape. I mean, you're going to use your fingers a lot for this. I will use my screwdriver occasionally, but I'm really using my fingers more because I want to feel that the tape is staying straight. If it's not, I will see if I can straighten it out right here. Don't be afraid to put a back stitch in. So let's say you get to a certain point, like, it's starting to curl up. Stop, put a back stitch in, take your clips off, fix it, and go back. I mean, there's nothing that says here that you have to keep going. It's not a top stitch here. And even then, with a top stitch, frankly, as long as you keep your threads long, you could still keep going there too. So don't be afraid when that happens. But I'm going to, as I said, do this per the seam allowance in the pattern. Sorry, I have to make sure I'm nicely set up. There we go. Nicely. And so I can tell when I'm going to be getting close to the zippers because I can feel right here. This is where the beginning of that zipper tab is, or the end of the zipper tab, and then where the zipper begins. So I mean, my zippers are right about there. I want to sew probably, a decent amount above the zipper tabs, so that I can have space to bring them down. Okay, so that's probably where I'm going to go. I'm going to leave my needle in. I'm lifting my presser foot so I can turn this. And I'm going to, my foot is off the pedal. I'm going to bring my zipper pulls down. And this is how, I just find this to be the easiest way. Well, usually. Come on. It's a little higher. There we go. They're both down. That's one. That's kind of feeling in there. Where's the other one? There we go. Okay. There. And so now I'm going to clip this again so I don't forget. It's a straight edge, but it's still helpful to have that clipped. Now I can finish going around this way. Let me just straighten up in my chair. As I said, I'm going to feel that tape and make sure it stays straight, doesn't curl on itself. Go slowly around these curves. Perfectly okay. And I'm just constantly feeling for it, straightening it out, sewing as close as I can to my zipper tape. Straight edge here, so it makes it a little easier. This one I can feel it's starting to curl up on itself, so I'm kind of wiggling it to straighten it out. There we go. Okay, I've got a little bit of a pleat there. Fix that. pleats, but I'm okay with that. Now we are going to turn this. This is always a fun part. We'll see how well we did. I'm also taking a look to see how do those stitches look. Do they look even? I think they look okay. We'll know better when we turn it. So let's turn it and see. Just gonna kind of grab it from the center at the top. Pull it through. There we go. It's a stiff vinyl, so it's a little hard. Now, if you're concerned about that, you know, this is stiff. I'm using a stiffer vinyl. I'm using thick waterproof canvas. You can certainly use different materials here. Something that might be a little softer, a little easier to turn. Because we are going to top stitch this as well. I just realized I said, oh, don't stitch down the edges of the zipper tabs. I was wrong. I was thinking about something that's coming up next. I guess you could have, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now if we look at this now, it's like, oh, kind of square edges. We do need to push things out. So I'm going to grab my chopstick. We want to really kind of get into these edges and try to push those out so that it's nice and round. I was thinking, how could I do this so that it's similar sort of to how we do the zippers on the Rosie by Knotted Threads. Because I thought, okay, well, this is similar to that if you think about it. But the basting, that 1/8 inch basting that we do, I think is really important. And, you know, with the Rosie, we cut into the... I mean, it's a zipper panel, so it is a little different, but still, we would have cut into the fabric here along the zipper to help it sort of fold nicely when you're making these curves. But you do that because you don't have that 1/8 inch basting. I do think that's important to do here. You really need to baste. So I think it'd be a little hard, but it's something I've been thinking about. How could I do that if I really wanted to? So what I'm doing, aside from pushing, is I'm feeling the seam allowance on the inside. I'm trying to get it nice and flat. We are going to be top stitching that. The sides I'm not as concerned about. I mean, I just need to press them into place, but I want this to be nice and round. It's like right here. It's still kind of has a square edge. So I'm going to push it back in, and I'm going to try to push it out again and help it kind of curve a little. And that could just be how I stitched it. That's okay. The other side is rounder. I like that. Let's see, how is this turning out? Maybe if I use it with my hand. Try to push that out a little bit. There, maybe that's a little better. I think it's just I happen to go right there. And I could pull this in. So this is me being picky right here. It's a little squarer than I'd like. But you know what? It's fine. I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm going to try to massage that seam to pop out a little bit there, but I think it's okay. So now it is time to top stitch, which I know is another spot where people can be intimidated. If you're familiar with the H2O, this is another place where you should probably have no issue at all. What I like to do is pull it kind of straight like this. We are top stitching on the flap itself, which would make sense. I mean, I think right here is where you might get confused, like, oh, I could top stitch on the zipper tab, but then you'd be top stitching on the zipper itself. So just ensure you're top stitching on the actual panel. We're going to flip it so it goes in. So you can see I've now flipped it so the zipper has that. I like to have my zipper tape zipped. I'll move that a little bit there right now. But you can unzip it if it would be easier for you. The main thing is feeling that seam allowance is pointing in and kind of pulling this on both sides so that it's nice and flat on the inside. So we're going to top stitch that. It's normal 1/8 inch seam allowance. And I have that elastic in there, so I have to make sure it stays out of the way. I need to bring up my home jumper a little bit. There we go. it here. Move my zipper pulls. I think I might actually leave it open this time. Sometimes it really depends on the materials you're using, whether you want your zipper tape open or closed. I think this one, as I'm hitting this curve, it's just very thick. And so it's going to help me pull it a little more. Now, of course, if I had unzipped it before, it'd be easier, but it's fine. Pull my zipper tape. Yeah, something is wrong here with my machine. I have to figure out why it's clicking so much. Figure out what that is. Okay, so I'm pulling here. Another part, I'm at that curve. The tape really wants to curve in on itself, so I'm trying to pull as much as I can right there. This material is really thick. So I've got to try really hard to pull here. Okay, we got to figure out what's going on. I want to finish this. Get my elastic out of the way. Now I'm on the straight edge, so I'm just kind of pulling this all straight. One tab that's a smidgen shorter. Must have shifted, but that's okay. Let's zip it up and see how we work. That's okay. Yeah, there we go. Not too bad. As I said, it's this one here where it was a little bit squarer than I like. I can see it. It's just me, but it's okay. So yeah, so I think we're ready to move on to the next. I'm going to try to figure out what's going on with my machine, and we'll be right back. All right, new day, new bobbin. Let's see if this works. Where we left off, I had already sewn on the zipper to the back, the main flap. We have the both the lining and the exterior all sewn here. So the next thing we want to attach is this part. So it's the outer part of the exterior to form the main exterior back panel. So we're going to do this part first. And so, as I said before, if you are familiar with the H2O to go, this should not be a problem. It's extremely similar to that. I have mine all taped. I do have my center marked on this as well. And so the way it's always instructed how you should do it, and frankly, I think it's a great way to always remember to do this so you don't accidentally sew something on upside down. I've done that before, so trust me. You've got your panel here. If you have a flatbed or a table, obviously a lot easier than when you just have this little flatbed attachment, but it's possible to work with. So I've got this right side up on my table, and I can see my notch for the center right there. I'm going to take what I've sewn together already, and it's right side down, so I'm seeing the interior right now. And I want to line up my center mark on my zipper with my center mark on the panel. Now I'm going to lift it up. Now, of course, you don't have to do it on the table, but just showing you that's a good way. If it's your first time, I would recommend doing that, just to ensure you've got everything nice, lined up nicely. Okay. So as we did before, we're going to do just a couple here at the top. Now we're going to go down to the sides. This is where it might get a little confusing. Say, how do I put these together? Just remember, it's always right sides together here. So as long as this isn't twisting, you're fine. So just put your right sides together. That's where the tape is really helpful. And clip it together. And as I did before, I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. And I'll sort of shift things around a little bit if I need to get it all fit in place. It's a little harder, I don't know what, yeah, harder, more challenging for this because it's kind of already formed, so you can put it here. This is that I sort of work my way around. Okay. I'll work my way down a little bit now. It will all fit in there. Sometimes I just have to move things a bit, and you can see sometimes I put it on the table, sometimes I hold it. It really just depends on what's going to get me the best angle. I'll sometimes flip it around, back and forth. There we go. Remember, just keep putting your clips on to help keep it flat. There we go. So that tape will really help as well. Another one here. Let me see, how's it looking up here? I want a clip right there. So I really try to keep this as flat as I can. So I use tons of clips. I really do. So now let's do the other side. So there it is. I am the queen of clips, but that's what I need. So I'm going to base this on. I was going to say, pretty sure if I recall, the pattern does actually mention sewing it on. I base this on first. That's how I do it. I also will open this flap when I do that. So I'm going to unzip it most of the way right now. I clearly can't unzip it entirely because I need to be able to zip past where my zipper pull is. So I'm going to unzip it to right there. Once I get to a point where I can pull the zipper pull all the way down, I will do that. I'm then going to fold this out of the way just so that I have a lot of access to the rest of this. So we're going to sew this so that you have the exterior flat panel facing you right side up, but you're really looking at the wrong side of this piece that we're sewing on. And so I'm going to base this. Let me turn this down a little. There we go. Okay. Here we go. And it's clicking again. Just a little bit though. I'll have to check on that. Okay, so I'm going to add a couple more stitches so before I can pull that down. Okay, now I can pull it down. And so what I'm going to do, my needle is in. I'm going to take a big clip like this. I like these big clips with the sort of silicone ends. I'm going to pull this down. I just like to get this out of my way. Worry about that. And I'm going to clip it. Okay, I've got a new one because I dropped that one. I'm going to clip it, there we go, to the bottom. That helps to just keep this out of the way. So you can see I have all of this. I mean, the elastic is usually not something you have there, but I have all of this to work with. It really helps as I'm doing this. And what I do, and if I recall, Lauren Mormino has a video where she shows this as well. I'll find that and link it below. I will sort of straighten this piece out. It's hard to see. Let me see if I can kind of, sorry, based on where I've got my phone, it's a little hard to see, but I'm going to straighten this piece out as I go, because obviously sewing a straight line is easier than a curved line, and this has got a lot of curves on it. So I'm going to keep straightening it as much as I can. It's going to make it so much easier getting this on, so don't be afraid to pull it straight. It will be fine. So I'm going to keep going. And I'm going to make sure I'm always seeing the wrong side of the piece that I'm sewing onto the zipper tape. If I have to, I might reposition it. It was coming off in one place. Take your foot off the pedal. That's mainly for me, so I don't sew my fingers. But you always want to make sure that that piece you're sewing on is aligned with the edge of the zipper tape, and it wants to move. It doesn't want to fit to that curve, so it's going to try to straighten itself out, the zipper tape well. So don't be afraid to get in there and straighten things out. So I'm just constantly straightening this out. straightening it out here. Get my, there we go, a little straighter again. And I'm actually now, see, because I kept straightening it out, I'm like, oh, look at that. I'm at the straight edge of that piece. I'm going to take this off just because it'll help keep it straighter. Pull this up. And now, once I get to a point where I think it's far enough down, I'm going to zip it up a little bit. Move that zipper pull out of the way. Keep this nice and flat. And now I can just finish it up. Okay. So I've got that sewn on. You can flip it out if you want to see it. Let's zip it so you can see what that looks like. There you go. As you can see. So now is an interesting part as well, because you've got a lot that's kind of fighting against you here. You've got curves that want to be curves and things that want to be straight and things that are folding in on itself this way. We're going to need to put on the lining piece now. So I'm going to grab that. And this is where it may also seem to get confusing. It's like, how do I align this? How does this work? Because, you know, it's like, what do I do here? And so we're going to, I guess, think of it the way when you're doing linings. I mean, you still want to have your right side facing your the lining here. And so if you think about it, let's open this up. If I were to open this, I would expect to open it and I would actually see something along these lines. But you have to think about, how do I sew that, because it's going to have a nice folded edge. We're going to top stitch eventually. So let me zip this up. Let me take my tape off and it'll make it easier. It's a little cumbersome, but again, can be done. I have notches in this as well, so I know where the half mark is. Sorry about that. Just needed to get something repositioned here. So we've got our center mark here on the lining. We should still be able to see our center mark on the zipper. I mean, if you think about a zipper sandwich, when you're doing the lining part, when you first do the first half of the lining, it goes with one mark on the zipper tape. The second part of the lining goes with the second mark on the zipper tape. And your linings are right sides together. So I'm going to find that center mark there. It's going to feel weird because I need a little light so I can do this. There we go. It's going to feel weird because it's upside down. I mean, you can see it's like, but when we're done and we top stitch, it will go like this. And that's what you want. So, and it's on the inside here of the zipper tape. I'm on this part here. I'm aligning the interior lining piece. And just keep thinking zipper sandwich. As I said, you've got so much that's fighting against you a little bit. You've got this that's curving in, but you need to get to this interior part here. So don't worry, just small pieces at a time. So I'm going to clip a few here. Like before, we need right sides together. So I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to have it be the right side with the lining of the zipper tab. So I've got right here. It's, as you can see, right side to right sides of the lining now. So I'm going to start clipping that in place. And now is when you have to start working it in. But you can see it's like, yeah, what are you doing to me? Just work it in. You got it. You'll be able to do this. Just like the front, I'm going to, put a couple clips here, start working my way up, and then sort of start working my way down and get it, just sort of fiddle with it until it fits nicely. Don't feel you have to go in one direction the whole time. So now I'm going to come up here, back to the top, and start working my way down. Just need a little more light while I'm doing this. There we go. When you're working with all black and your eyes are a little older, it's like, it all blends into one. So there we go. Now, because I'm using waterproof canvas, I mean, it's more, you know, it's a little more pliable, obviously, than the vinyl, but it's also kind of, you know, doesn't stretch. Vinyl does sometimes have a little bit of stretch, so you have to finagle it a little bit there. There we go. It is not pretty, but that's okay. That's what you need for right now. Let's do the other side. So remember, right sides together. So here's the right side of my lining. Here's the right side of the lining tab there. I'm going to put this down to the end. Start clipping it there. Keep clipping. I'm going to come up to the top again. I like to then start working my way down a little bit. And I'm really trying to ensure that everything lines up at the edges there. I mean, it's because it doesn't want to necessarily fit that curve. It's trying to shift down a little bit on the zipper tape. It's like, nope, you're staying at the edge. I don't care what you want to do. You're doing what I want to do. Okay. Let me just sort of work this in a little here. There. Okay. Okay, I think we are clipped. Takes a little time. Yeah, not pretty, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be pretty. We just need it clipped so that we can get around that curve. And you can see it's really, it's tight, but I can pull it. You can see a little, it's kind of straightening out to the shape you would expect. It'll be better once we sew it. So, like before, I mean, I want to be able to see the wrong side of the lining that I'm sewing on. I've got the right side of that panel. So now it's the right side, with, in this case, the lining side. My zipper pulls are, where am I? They're on this side. Oh, that's actually good. Let's move one out of the way. Like I did before, I am going to want it open. So I'm going to move one to the other side. Of course, a little challenge. You've got all those clips in the way, but it's okay. So I'm going to move one all the way to the bottom right now of that. So it's hitting the tape there. I just want it as far down as I can get it. This one is a little higher up. You can see it's right here. The zipper tape is right here. And that's because I want to be able to sew up just high enough so that I can move the zipper pull down. And then I will get this whole thing out of the way. So we're going to start again. This time we're going to do the seam allowance in the pattern. And as I mentioned when I was doing the front, you can feel when you're getting to the zipper tab, the end of the tab, and thus right around where the zipper tape actually begins, because I can feel on here just a little ridge. And so that's where I've just hit the tab and gone over it. And now one thing you want to keep in mind too, I mean, you're like, oh, maybe I should, when you're folding this, you want to just remember, you always want your pieces together. I mean, as I said, this is wanting to fold all over the place. And when you get around here, you're like, oh, well, it makes sense. I want to keep this out. Nope. Remember, keep everything folded together. Even though it's trying to fight you and do what you want, what it wants, sorry, you want it to do what you want it to do. And so just ensure whatever you're sewing is nice and flat the way you would expect. I'm sewing two pieces together with a zipper. I'm making a zipper sandwich. They have to be flat together. You don't want that exterior piece flipping out like that, because then you're going to be sewing it incorrectly. So just force it into place, and it really is okay. It's that curve right here kind of says, I'm going to try doing something else. No, don't let it. So let me see, am I high enough? I'm high enough now. I can move my zipper pulls out of the way. And so like before, I'm going to pull this out of the way, because it'll help me sort of straighten it out. I'm going to clip it again, just so that I can have it there. Okay, and so now, like before, I will kind of turn this. I'm going to turn the material so it's going to keep straightening out. So I'm sewing something straight as opposed to something curved. I'm going to straighten it a little more. Kind of feeling for where my zipper tape is, making sure all good there. Trying to keep things nice and flat. Just constantly repositioning everything under there. The tape helps, but you know, as I said, it's fighting you, so do what you can to just keep everything nice and straight. Use as much tape or clips as you want. And I would use 1/8 of an inch tape. That's what I would recommend using. But that should be enough to really kind of help it stay in place. And then use lots of clips. Just use lots of clips. And now on the straight edge, so I'm going to take this off, bring this back. I'm kind of repositioning things here. And in fact, I'm going to, high enough, I can move this zipper pull out of the way, I think. Right. There's a lot going on here. There we go. Where are we? There we go. So now the zipper pulls out of the way and I can just keep going. I can feel I'm getting up to my tab again. I'm going to sew over that. There we go. So, not gonna lie, the first time you do this is a challenge. This can definitely be a challenge. But know that, just as I said, use as much tape as you can. And if that means cleaning off your needle because you have a needle that's not gonna like it, I would just recommend doing that, because tape really is your friend with this. Use as many clips as you can. And sort of. And you can see even when you're done, it really still, it's like, yeah, okay, that's great. I'm glad you did that. This is what you're going to look like now. No, we're going to force it to be where we want it to be, so don't worry about that. But you can see it still looks like a bit of a mess, but if we look on the outside, it's looking nice. Now the next fun part, top stitching. Not so bad, not so bad. What I do here, I mean, top stitching clearly means we need to fold both the lining piece and the exterior together, because if you think about it, that's what a top stitch is. We're going to bring those together so we can top stitch right here along the exterior part of the panel, so it'll sort of hold those together and hold that seam nicely in place. So what I do here, we're only top stitching it, we're not sewing around any of the edges. I'm going to clip all along. I'm going to be pulling as well to try to keep everything nice and straight, but it's hard, and it's going to really help if you clip all the way along, just to have it hold there. So I'm going to do that. I'm really trying to pull it so that that lining piece, and that lining really wants to do its own thing. I am pulling it like this to bring it to the edge of the exterior, not sewing it together, but I just want it there, because that means it's as tight as it can be, tight and taut, when I'm doing my top stitching. I want to feel that seam inside, nice and flat. Now where it's going to be challenging is right here in this corner. I mean, it's this, you can see this curve can be really tight. And so just do your best. I said I bring it up first to the corner. So I've got my two corners aligned right here. I'm going to clip those. And I'm kind of just feeling that seam. I'm trying to feel it right here. Trying to flatten it out, get it used to being in this shape so that when I top stitch it, it's not going to resist me as much. I'll put more clips on if I need to as I do that to really help it. And so now I'm going to keep going. I'm going to line these up on the back. Got my 2 center marks, so I know where that needs to be. And I wish I could have you feel the resistance, because there is resistance there. That's okay. So I'm going to clip along the top. And then, as I said, I'm going to sort of massage that seam, all of that, so it really nose. That's where it needs to be. Okay. Now I'm going to start at the bottom here. I just like to work from the bottom up. So I'm putting these together, but I'm also pushing forwards on these like this towards the edge to try to get it as nice and tight as possible. I don't want it to fold in on itself. Maybe I'm also doing that. I've been watching these videos about people getting massages because I just had a really great massage recently. And so I'm all about the different ways you sort of press and push and massage fabric right now. So I'm going to get a lot of massaging right now. Okay. So as before, I'm going to start clipping those all the way, massaging my seam. Back to the top here, I'm going to do these two here, the two corners. I'm going to bring those together. They really don't want to be together, but I'm going to make them be together. There we go. All the way across the top. It's really going to help. So don't be afraid to use a lot of clips. Okay. Now I can finish this side here. It's going to help. And you can see, I mean, I did stop right here. This is the beginning of the curve, and I had stopped clipping the edges and went up to the top. It just helps. It helps, I feel, if you do it a little bit at the top then, once you get closer up there, to get the rest of the seam or side to align. Okay, so now I'll just kind of work this part of the seam so I can feel it. So when it's time to top stitch, it should be fairly easy. I'm going to put another one here. Oops, wrong one. There we go. And here, I'll be honest too. I am not a pro, if you could say I'm not a Guardian pro. And so I've got some pleats up here. I'm okay with that. They're the interior. It's part, I mean, this is fabric that I haven't snipped. I mean, I guess ideally maybe if you snip it a little bit. I haven't played with that. I guess I could do that at some point in time, but I just don't get as concerned about any little pleats here. So for me, I'm okay with that. If you prefer not having any, there are lots of tutorials out there for the Guardian. So, and certainly there's Linds' tutorial. But you may also want to use a different material, something that has a little more give to it than waterproof canvas. And this is OtterTech's waterproof canvas, so it's really thick and doesn't have give. So think about that as you're using your materials. I'm okay with the few little sort of puckers up there. So we're now going to top stitch this, and like before, it really will be easier to have it open at some point. But I'm going to start with it. There we go. I'm going to start with it closed. Let me turn my, or fairly closed, don't slide, there we go. Turn my stitch or seam allowance up to a 5. And remember, we're top stitching on this side exterior panel, eighth of an inch from the side. And go slowly, and it'll be fine. And yep, my hump jumper's at a good spot. Now, at the beginning, I'll just let it go. But one thing you want to do, sort of similar to how you might top stitch normally, is really ensure that the lining back here is not kind of retreating back in on itself. If you think about when you're doing maybe a pouch and you're doing that top stitch, something, I'm trying to think like anything where you would be top stitching through the lining. You know, you've got something with the zipper panel, you put it together. You want to, a zipper panel, that's it. That's a better example. When you're doing your zipper panel, like for a top recessed zipper panel, you want to really ensure that lining part doesn't start to creep back in closer to the zipper. And so I am behind here pulling. It's a little hard to see. Let's see if I can, here is, there we go. Here is my lining right there. I am pulling that as I go along. I want that to be taut. I don't want it to start creeping back in towards the zipper. So, gotta figure out what's causing that click every so often. And so I am doing that there. I'm really trying to ensure they stay even here. Something's goofy in there. Okay, now I'm going to pull this down and pull that down. I'm going to clip it just because now I can have a little more grip on my zipper. I can also pull my zipper here. It's a little hard to see. So pretend right over here. I can pull right here as well to try to keep everything nice and taut. This is a little easier to manage when you don't have as much material right there. And I can straighten it out again, as I did before. Okay, so we're getting to this corner where you've got so much going on. Just try to keep everything. See, and I can feel my lining is pulling a little bit in, but it'll be okay. Pulling my zipper tape to keep it also from sort of creeping back in. Because it really wants to. It wants to creep back in on those curves. So try to pull it out and feel that your seam is nice and flat. And we're going to take a break once we're through this so I can figure out what might be causing that click. So it's clearly not the bobbin because there's a new bobbin in there. Get my light back down here. So go slowly. No need to go fast. Pulling my zipper tape and my materials. So I'm getting almost at the straight edge again. Probably straight enough. I'm going to unclip this. I'm going to bring this back up because I'm really getting close to where I can pull my zipper pull up. Okay, now I'm going to pull that up. It's just straight at this point. Okay. Great. And with that, you did it. You did it. Yeah, come on. And we have finished panel. So if we look on the inside, we can see it's all sewn there. I'm gonna look. Looks pretty good. I mean, as I said, I know I've got some little puckers at the top. I'm fine with that. Not a big deal. But my top stitching on the exterior looks good. Looks really nice and consistent. So I'm happy with that. You know, some of this here, it's going to flatten out once we sew it all together. It'll be straighter then, but otherwise I can see my top stitching looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. We are now finally at a point where we can start assembling this. I am going to sew the bottom of this shut first. I'm going to do it from this side just to make it easier. We're going to need it sewn shut eventually. So I'm just going to baste across here. There we go. Okay. And now we are going to take off some of the clips here. We're going to assemble our pieces and we're going to get started. Wow, finally able to do this after all this time. Pull over everything we've got. Got our grab handle. I've got my exteriors. There, I think we're good. Okay, so now I'm gonna have to pull that down. So the first thing we want to do actually is get our straps on. Now you would think for your straps that you would put them on your back. I mean, straps go in the back. Let me find my two strap, the strap piece. But no, these are actually going to go out onto the front first. Here's one, here's the other. They're going to go on the front. We're going to put them on the front, at the top. We're going to sew it together. Eventually, when we flip everything out, they are going to flip to the back. So they will be, and it's something to make sure you're paying attention to. But because we are putting them on the front and they're going to flip to the back, when you sew these on, I mean, I've got my, sorry, let me get this out of the way. There we go. I've got my two strap pieces. I've cut angles at them, the top, as you can see, because we want them to go out a little bit like that. But what you want to ensure you do, if you have straps that maybe have a design on it that's only on one side, like this is the debossed, there, hopefully you can see that, the debossed webbing from Mormino, you want it to be right side down, because when it flips over, it's going to be right side up. So ensure you do that. Now I have changed mine a little here. The pattern, how I'm going to do this. Normally what you would be doing is sewing on your straps. So let me get the strap out of itself. And in the pattern, it gives you measurements as to where to put it on the top, and you would sew those in at an angle. Well, let's just pretend this is the strap, it's a little easier. And you would sew it in at an angle, and you've got it cut at a slight angle. I'm sorry, cut it at an angle, sew it in something along these lines, as you can see. And you have your strap here. As I mentioned at the beginning, for me, because I'm fairly broad-shouldered, if I put them that far over, the straps will fall off my shoulders more quickly than I'd like. And so I'm changing this a little bit. I decided this sort of at the last minute, so this wasn't even in the materials part at the beginning. I'm going to do these smaller pieces here, and then I will take rectangle rings like this, and I'll rivet those down so when they're on the other side, it'll be like this, and I'll put the strap through right there. It's just going to make it a little bit longer. I'm going to put it closer to the middle as well, so that way it's not going to hopefully fall off quite as easily. So as I said, I've got this here. I'm just making this up as I go. I may put it right there in the middle, in fact. I've got my center notch right there. I'm thinking I'm going to put each piece sort of at the edge of that notch. I'm going to, and I've got it cut at a slight angle. I've got it right side down. I'll show you with both, and we'll see how it looks. This is me doing it on the fly. I haven't done that like this before. So I'm thinking of doing something like that. So again, right side down, because this is the side right here with the debossed roses. It's down, so when I flip it over, it'll be fine. I think that's what I'm going to do. I will also eventually be riveting these. I think. We'll see. I'm deciding on that. I probably will for some added strength, and I'll show you that when we get to that point. But for right now, we're just going to baste these on. So I can bring my stitch length. It's fine at a 4.5. We'll just leave it there. So let's baste this on. I've got kind of threads going all over the place. There we go. So that's how we're going to start this right now. Yeah, I think that'll work. That'll work. It's going to be a little easier for me to wear. So the next thing we want to do is we want to attach the other side of our exterior. So we've got our two here. But this is where you have to start being careful with things. We have, let me pull this one out of the way. We have our back panel, which has both the exterior with the zipper flap and the lining, the interior with the zipper flap. If you think about it, when you're sewing a bag, you would sew only your exteriors together and only your linings together. Well, these are already attached. So what that means is we need to carefully ensure we are only sewing the exterior of the flap with the zipper panel to that front part. So as you can see here, here is my lining. It is not going to be part of what I'm sewing together right here. Pulling this down, and I'm attaching just the top. Here's the exterior with the zipper flap. Here's the exterior front panel. I'm clipping those together. Clip those. And I did line them up because they both had center markings, so I was able to line those up. Everything's square. Okay. And so now we're going to sew this together. So as you can see, my lining is kind of out of the way, and I would recommend doing it with this up. The main panel, the front panel, is down so that you can see where your lining is. And we're going to sew across the top with the seam allowance in the pattern. And for this, I will be sewing over, I mean, you would be sewing over closer to the edge, these straps. And then you're sewing over those strap connectors a little closer to the middle. Okay, got that sewn together. This is where things are going to differ a little bit from the pattern. I like how Lauren Momino did it, where she top stitched here on the exterior and has it so that it's separate. You're going to find, if you do per the pattern, you will attach also the interior front back panel here as well now, and then you'll sort of fold these open, and you're going to put on your grab handle and you'll stitch it on, and it's actually going to do a really nice job of stitching the lining to the top of the exterior, and it stays in place. It can be cumbersome when we have to start putting on the side panels, and I have found it easier doing it the way Lauren did in one of her videos, where we keep them separate. So if you want to do it truly per the pattern, definitely go check out Linds' pattern. There are other patterns like, video. There are other videos which will also show you that. But I'm going to be doing it sort of this easier, it is an easier way, where we're going to keep everything separate. So we're still, right now, just focusing on our exterior, as you can see here. And what we want to do, I mean, we've got a seam here, you know, that you don't want that poking in. And so you could butterfly it open if you want. I'm not going to butterfly it, but I will still be, well, actually, let's see how well this kind of works, how flexible this fabric is. I'm going to top stitch. Yeah, I'm not going to butterfly it. And part of the reason is to butterflying it, I've got these straps here now. I'm just going to flip it over. Now remember, you want these when you're going to top stitch, or even if you're doing it the way per the pattern, make sure your straps are now facing the back. Don't have them facing the front. It's where you want them. I mean, that's where you started with them. You just instinctively think that's where they should go. Don't put them there. Flip them over. Flip them over. So if you're now doing the part with the grab handle, you've got them over on the back. Very important. But I'm doing it slightly differently. I'm going to ensure that my lining is pressed out of the way. I'm going to bring my stitch length up to a 5. I'm going to top stitch on the front. I'm not going to worry about top stitching on the back. I'm doing a butterfly. I'm just going to top stitch on the front, because I'm still going to put a grab handle on there. So we're going to do this. And we're going to 1/8 of an inch from that edge. And I'm going to have to roll this up a little bit. It's getting tight in here. I want to make sure that seam stays nice. Make sure this stays nice and taut. There's going to be another set of stitches to keep that strap down. Making sure my lining is out of the way. There we go. And it'll have a nice look on the front. So you can see, here we go. Here's my front, has a nice top stitch area. And I mentioned before that I might be riveting down. I might rivet, haven't decided yet, right here, sort of above the zipper panel. When I make this bag with a removable strap, it's similar to this. There will just be one strap connector right here. And what I do is, I mean, it's sewn in here, obviously. So we've got it, the original stitch, now the top stitch. But, I mean, this is where you're going to have stress. And so I think having an extra rivet right there is helpful. And so I will, when I do that, I will actually put the rivet through the webbing, obviously, the exterior and the lining. And that's my way also of trying to keep the lining sort of attached to the top a little bit. So I will probably do that. I'm not going to do it before I would sew everything together. It would be after, at the very end. So I'll just leave this as is for now. So we've got that together, and we'll flip this back this way. Now we do want to attach, no, sorry, not yet. Let's not do that yet. We're going to attach our grab handle. So as I said, if you were doing this per the pattern, you would have already attached your interior back lining. to it. And so you would have it, and you'd lie both the exterior and the interior flat, so you'd have both pieces here. You'd put your grab handle on like this, you'd stitch it down, and that would, one, cover your straps, so you're offering some additional strength for your straps there, because it would cover them entirely. And two, it would sew and keep the lining attached to the exterior, so it'd be nice and tight on the inside. I'm not doing all of that, so I'm just going to be attaching it to the exterior. And so what you want to do here is we're going to take our grab handle, we're going to put some tape on the end, on the inside, make sure, there we go. I know it's all black, it's hard to see, it'll be easier when I do it. And then we're going to stitch it down here. You can stitch it down when you do. You can decide, do you want to do one big rectangle? Do you want to do an X through it? That's for you to decide, depending on how nicely it goes down, because sometimes, you know, I put it down and maybe it sort of shifts a little bit. You can sometimes put a rivet in those as well. I've done that when I've had the straps underneath this directly, when I have put the straps in the location per the pattern, because I feel that adds a little strength. So lots of things you can do there. I'm going to go get this prepared over at my cutting table, and you'll see when we're ready to sew this on. So we're all set. It's all taped on. What I did was I taped, put some 1/2-inch double-sided tape, that's what I prefer to use, on the interior, on the inside, so it's sticking here. One thing I found when I was doing this and laying it down was that I did not center this correctly, this handle part where I folded it over and put the cover on it. I didn't center it correctly. My fault, and it wasn't going to be even. The pattern will tell you where you should exactly have marks so you can know how big of a rectangle to sew. And if you're doing it also per the pattern, you need to be very careful with that, because it's set in a way so that you'll be able to adhere everything else together. So ensure you're really following the pattern there. I found that when I did my marks to sort of sew it down here, it was off, and I cut it, so that just means my grab handle part won't be as high as it could be or should be. That's okay. That's not my primary way of carrying it, so that'll be fine. Because I am not sewing it to the lining, I have ensured, you can sort of see, let me show you right here. I've clipped my lining to my zipper. I wrapped it around because I don't want to accidentally sew on that. And so I put a couple of little marks so I can see how far up I should sew. And I'm going to just sew a rectangle. I don't even think I'm going to sew through it, because I'm not trying to hold down any straps here. If I had straps under there, I would definitely sort of sew an X through that as well, but I'm not. So an X will be just fine, or I'm sorry, a square rectangle would be just fine. So I'm going to sew that on, 1/8 of an inch from the edge. What you can always do as well, if you're doing this for the straps, and you really want it to be strong, have a lot of strength on those, you could do 2 rectangles. You could sew one and then sew another and then put an X through that. And there are lots of ways that you can make it so that it's nice and strong. So I'm just going up to my first mark, holding my strap flat as I do it, or my grab handle flat, and coming around, making sure my lining is out of the way because of how I'm making it. Just gonna go straight down. Yeah, make sure this. See, this is sometimes when you've got just the flatbed attachment, you're dealing with a lot of stuff, so you're gonna kind of finagle it. Pivots. Okay, one side sewn. We're going to do the other side. Got that done. It's starting to look like a bag. So let's see, you can sort of see here. Let me zip it up in the back. So there we go. It's starting to look like a bag. So we've got this, got our back. Woohoo! Next, we're going to go back to the inside though. And now we are going to take our lining. So I've got our interior lining piece right here. And let's turn it around as you would normally do, right sides together. So I've got my top notches that I've cut out on both. I've got a notch right here, which you can't see, but I have a notch here. I'm going to align those. There we go. And we're going to sew them per the seam allowance of the pattern. And because I am doing it a little differently, I will top stitch this afterwards rather than, there's the whole process there to do it. What you do is you essentially butterfly both the lining and the exterior open before you sew on that grab handle so that they are, the seams are nice and flat. And so when you sew the grab handle on, it's sewing through that and it has a nice flat look on the interior. So you would do that there, but I am not going to do that. So let me just sew this still per the seam allowance in the pattern. Bring this down. Okay, I had to tighten my presser foot there, so let's try again. For the seam allowance. I'm going to top stitch this. Again, if you were doing it for the pattern, you would actually just butterfly the stitches open along with the exterior so that you could have them nice and flat for when you put on that grab handle. And I'm going to top stitch it towards the back or this main piece. It's just going to be easier to do. This is just to keep the seam down, no other reason really. So you're not going to see it. Okay. We're now getting ready to put on our sides. Yay. So in the pattern, Linds will instruct you on how to pull together your sides. I've got both my exterior and my lining sides right here. There we go. I need to put tape on my lining ones. I like to have tape on everything. This is another example. You can see I put tape on my exterior sides. It's going to really help me as I put this all together, but this is a place where you could staple as well if you really wanted to. And if you're one who's finds staples to be just the easiest way to help keep everything together, do it. I'm kind of on the fence when it comes to staples. For this one, I'm used to not stapling, so the tape is enough for me, especially when I have the flatbed attachment. I'm sorry, not the flatbed, the cylinder arm. You're going to see I'm going to be using the cylinder arm in a moment for this. So, but for you, you may want to. I think there are places where it could certainly be beneficial. So Linds will show you in the pattern and instructs that when you're sewing these together, she recommends you first, let me just grab one. So, as usual, you would attach your right sides together. So, but she recommends you sew a small amount right here across the top of each of those before attaching the sides. I think that's a great idea. And then what she will do is she'll sew up one side per the seam allowance and then the other side. I have done enough of these now. I can sew all the way around without having to sew up one and the other. That took some practice. I definitely did it the way she recommends doing it in the pattern. I think it helps to get sort of nicer tops. And I should tell you, the tops of mine, the sort of the corners, the curves here are not always perfect. I'm okay with that. But I think the way she does it is definitely a great way to go when you're first learning. But for me right now, I will very likely go all the way around, especially since I'm going to use my cylinder arm. But I do like to do what she says first. I will attach just a little bit at the top. I'll do about an inch across this way at the seam allowance so that it's already attached. It makes it easier. I'm going to do that with all 4 pieces, the 2 exterior and the 2 interior. I find it much easier to have them all attached at once before I start to sew up the sides. And so that will be, for right now at least, the last part of when I'm going to use the flatbed. Let me see, will I bring it on at any other point? No, I don't think I will actually. So what I'm going to do, let me show you here. This is also why, if you look at how I've taped it, my tape has a piece here and then down the sides. That's because, well, aside from throwing it in the garbage, I'm going to first just take the tape off the top. I'm leaving the tape on the sides. I don't want that to get in my way. It's going to be a little sticky if I do. And then I'm going to align it right sides together. I've got my exterior, just my exterior. Don't align the lining as part of this because we're going to do the sides for the lining separately. And I'm going to clip these on. And so I'm going to start with this one. Bring my seam allowance down to, or stitch length down to about a 4, 4.5. And I'm going to do, set just about an inch across the top at the seam allowance, because that'll be my top, making sure everything else is out of the way. And there, get it aligned. There we go. So it's not a lot, it's just enough to sort of stitch it in place so that it will hold as you're sewing on the sides. So you could do a little more. I mean, I just did the smallest amount. I don't know how well you can see that, just the small amount there. I'm going to do that on all 4 sides. I said both the interior and the exterior. So I'm going to do my other exterior here. Lining up, I've got my center notches cut on my side panel, and I can see where I sewed together the top and the front and the back of the exterior, so I can see where that is, and I'm aligning it with that. If you were doing this per the pattern, you would also be sewing these the exterior onto the exterior, the interior. That's why when you sew on your grab handle, I'll take this part off for a second. That's why when you sew on your grab handle, if you're doing it per the pattern, it's especially important. Sorry, I've got my webbing is coming apart there. There we go. It's especially important to ensure that you haven't sewn that bit at the very end, because you need to be able to separate the two so that you're only sewing the interior to the interior and the exterior to the exterior. Yeah, we're good. So hopefully you can see there just a little bit there to hold it in place. Okay, now the fun part. Now is when we're going to start sewing the sides together. We're going to start with the exterior because it's going to be so much easier. So I'm going to start sewing all of this together, and then we will do the interior. I take off my flatbed attachment for this. So you're going to see how you would do this on a cylinder arm. I find it so much easier than when I had just a normal sewing machine. What I sewed on before, and I made plenty of these, just to state, you don't need an industrial sewing machine. You don't even need a semi-industrial sewing machine. I'll try to find a picture and put it in so you can see well, it's actually the second one. Both the first and second Guardians I made were on a really inexpensive, basic Brother sewing machine when I was first learning to sew. I bought one on Amazon for just a little over $100 to see if I liked sewing or not. And one of the first things I decided to try was a Guardian. And I made it with vinyl for the second one. I used vinyl from oh so pretty. So it wasn't as thick as the vinyl here. It wasn't the Luxe vinyl. Oh, where is it? Here we go. It wasn't Luxe vinyl from Normino, but it was still vinyl. And I used waterproof canvas for the lining. And I did it. I even then on that second one decided let's put pockets where they weren't pockets. I already was altering things at that point. So you can certainly do it on those other machines. What you will do, you'll see once you put it together, is sort of think about how you would do anything where maybe there was binding involved. We're not binding the sides, but think about that. You want to sew the way you sew your edges there. Just those are the kind of the approaches you'll need to take. So I think it'll be a little clearer as we start to put this together. So let's first tape it, and then you can see different ways you can sew it. So I'm going to take off the tape on one side, and I'm going to clip it. So right now on this one side, you can see I'm clipping it to the back panel here. So that's what I'm doing. I'm clipping this to the back panel. Let me see if I can turn this a little bit. There, hopefully that's even just a little bit there. So you can see I'm clipping it to the back panel. Well, back panel if you're inside the bag, front panel from the outside, that's where it gets interesting. You know, where's the back and where's the front? Okay, so it's the panel that, I guess that's really the front of the bag. Okay, so as you get close to the top, this is another place where it's like, do you really, it doesn't want to move into this curve. It will. I mean, it's, when you've sewn those two, that front and the back together, it will want a curve around here. You can sort of see we've got a curve on our top panel here, and it'll fit in there. It just sort of help it if you need to. And that's where tape will be really helpful. Staples, if you need them, will be really helpful. For me, tape and clips are all I need. I do need more than clips. I need those to really stay in place, but I don't need more than tape. And so but I do clip it. Now, when we do the other side, this is the side that has the zipper, the back panel, zipper entrance, whatever we're calling this. There we go. How you get into your bag. And if you remember, we have these two pieces. Don't do what I did. I sewed across the bottom, but don't sew across entirely. You need to keep your lining and your exterior separate. So there we go. So if you did what I did, you recall, I sewed straight across the bottom there, which, okay, yeah, that was fine. You can sew across the bottom of the middle part. Don't sew across on these side parts right here. If you did, cut those threads, because you need those to stay separate. I need to have this open like this. You can sort of see, I'm trying to make sure, yeah, with the black it's hard, because when I attach my side, I'm only attaching it to the exterior right there. So you can see my lining is right here. My exterior is right here. When we attach the side part of the interior, we will attach it to the other part. So you need to keep that out of the way. If you need to, and this is what I used to do before I had a cylinder arm, I would take it. So again, here is this, where'd it go? Here's this lining piece right here. I would clip it to the back flap because I need it to be out of the way. You're probably gonna, if you haven't made this before, I guarantee, oops, I have to take the tape off. I guarantee you will sew that into your exterior at some point, I promise. And you'll just have to pull the stitches and it will be okay. Sorry. You know what? We're going too far. We almost had a major issue here. Glad I didn't sew anything yet. Let's take that apart. Guess I could have left that. Anyone see a problem? We don't have any side connectors in. Haha. So let's quickly get those on. No foam, no side connectors. That's fine. All good. No, it's all fine actually. So we're going to come back here to the front. Back. Whichever side this is. We need to put in our side connectors. They're going to go on the side here, where you would expect them. Only onto the exterior. So we are going to move that out of the way when we sew those on because we do need this to be separate. You can decide where you want that to go. So for me, I'm going to figure out how high do I want it to be. There will be markings in the pattern, so feel free to put that there. But I'm going to, that looks pretty good. One thing I'm also going to do, and that's part of what I'm judging here, is I don't like my strap connectors kind of flying in the wind like that. And so I will eventually rivet them right through here. So when I do this, I'm going to have a little bit of overhang because you want some overhang. You can see there'll be some overhang. but I'm also ensuring that it's long enough so that I can rivet it. And I think this is probably high enough for me. Let me grab a ruler so I can see how high did I put it so that it's even on the other side. So the pattern will have, that's good. The pattern will know to where it should go, but I just like to put it kind of where I like it. I think that'll be good right there. Not too high, not too low. So I'm going to sew this side down, and remembering I am not sewing it through the lining and putting that out of the way. And you're really just basting this down right now. There we go. So let's say I had forgotten to put those on. In fact, I think somebody had just posted, I saw and I didn't comment on it, but let's say I forgot to sew these on until I was done. What would I do? I would probably create a nice looking strap connector with finished ends, and I would rivet it figure out how I could rivet it in a couple places on the side here, all the way through. I mean, so I would... Yeah, I'd want it riveted probably in 2 places. And if I needed to, I guess I would think, would I need to put it here? I don't know. I'd play around with it, but that is likely what I would do. I would make a nice looking strap connector with a finished edge so that I could rivet it onto the back and just know you're going to have the rivets seen on the inside of your bag. So as long as you're okay with that, then don't worry. I think there are always creative ways to fix things. So don't feel that just because something is wrong that you're stuck. There are always creative ways to fix things. See, I think that looks good. Are they pointing at kind of the same direction? That's what I got. My strap at the right height. I want them both pointing kind of in the right same angle, and that they're both in about the same amount. Let's see, this one, I want to pull this one back a little. That's good. Mine. I think, often I will be far more precise. I will measure it and cut my strap connectors so that they are at precise angles, but I think this is fine. There we go. Now we can sew on the sides. I'll trim those down a little bit, but for right now, I think I'll wait until we're done sewing. Okay, now we're ready to sew on the sides. Back to where we were. We'll pretend that didn't just happen. Or maybe, that just shows. There are always little things like that. I am always forgetting something small. Strap connectors. I feel like I should, have a big sign up for myself saying, don't forget the strap connectors. Don't forget the strap connectors. Because I am notorious for that. I think it's a good thing for, at least for many bags, there are ways to put strap connectors on after the fact. I should probably own stock in some of those companies. Okay, so as I was saying, we've got this side nicely clipped, and we're going to come back over to this side now with the strap connector. If you need to, as we said before, clip your lining out of the way so you don't accidentally sew over it, but don't be too concerned if you do, especially when you're first starting. Guarantee it's going to happen, and it's okay. And we're just going to clip all along the edge. And that tape is really helping to keep this in place. Now I am using, this is Black Rubber Boots, Luxe Vinyl from Mormino. It's got a shine to it, as you can see. I don't want to say it's sticky. It's not like some of those glitter vinyls that are so sticky that even my machine would have an issue. It's not like that by any means, but with the stick, the shine there, it's got a little bit of, not grip, a little stick to it. And so I think that's helping it stay together too. It's not sliding all over the place. Okay, so I've got my side pinna clipped on. The exterior is out of the way. You can see, and if you needed to, tape it down. Maybe get some painter's tape or something. And I tried so many different things. You really want to ensure this is down, out of the way, because you don't want to be sewing over that. So let's just pretend I was sewing this on the flatbed. How would I do that? I mean, Linds definitely shows these in different ways. What's the easiest way? The easiest really is to be able to sew it so you're seeing it from this side, which is hard because on this side, it's not a problem because that's just this side here. Then I lost a clip. But when you get to this side with this little piece that you're trying to keep out of the way, it can be challenging. So that's why I said try to do as much as you can to really get that out of the way. Feel under there as much as you can to try to ensure that it's out of the way. It'll be okay. Don't worry. I am going to be doing this though on the flatbed. So let's get this out of here. Sort of see how this works. Put this to the side. There we go. And so if you have a cylinder arm, I said I'm doing it on the flatbed. I'm doing it on the cylinder arm. If you have a cylinder arm and you've never made a guardian on the cylinder arm, you've got to make a guardian on the cylinder arm. One benefit is I can do it from this side. So I'm doing it, I'm not going to be looking at the side panel, I'm going to be looking at the main panels. And that means when I get to this part right here where I need to keep this out of the way, I'm holding it out of the way. It's great. So that's what I like. I'm going to crank that up a little bit. I'm going to do this per the seam allowance in the pattern, and you can probably see right now, here's my little tray. That's where I put my clips as I go along. So per the seam allowance. Going over that strap connector. The strap connector really does get sewn down nicely. I mean, I've got it stitched down the first time. I did it again. I just choose to rivet it to have a little extra something there. So I'm just sticking with the seam allowance all the way, that's in the pattern, all the way around. Now it'll get a little interesting here to the top, and that's where Linds says, you know, she goes part of the way up, or she goes up to where she did her stitches and then flips over and does the other side. If you need to do that, definitely do that if it's easier. I think you'll probably have a cleaner look to it, so don't worry if that's what you need to do. I here just kind of flatten everything out as I go. I'm trying to make sure everything stays nice and flat. It gets a little bulky, but that's okay. In fact, I'm going to crank it up a little bit right there because I do have some extra bulk here I've got to go over. Flatten that out. It's easier at the beginning because I can kind of reach in to help flatten things out. It's harder as you start to sew more and more of this together, but it's doable. There we go. I will admit, whenever I come to the second side, it's never quite as nice, and you know, it's fine. I'm okay with that. Take my time. I tend to sew quickly on my cylinder arm because I've gotten used to it, but not for this one. For this, I'll go in. I'm going to really try to flatten everything out. There we go. Just about over that curve at the top. Yeah, now I'll be able to, pretty easy. Now it's just straight sewing. Fortunately, we don't top stitch anything here. Bring this down a little. I can feel it gliding. Okay, so let's take a look. This is one of those, definitely go and take a look and see how it is, because if you need to fix any curves or anything, you can do that now. Better to do it now than later. And this is going to be an easy one to pop out to see. It'll get harder as you do more. Let's see how this looks. Because there are a couple things we want to look for. We obviously want to ensure that everything's been caught. We want to ensure that at the top, our grab handle is nicely in there. We don't see the edge of it. Oh, this isn't looking too bad. Not too bad. Okay, so let me show you. So here's the top of my bag right there. Let me try to hold it up a little like this. It's going to be easier once it's got shape to it, but hopefully you can see it's not too bad up there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. What I was looking for, I wanted to ensure that I did come up high enough with the seam allowance. I mean, if you do per the seam allowance, it's fine, but sometimes things slide a little, and I don't see the edge of my grab handle. If you did, you'd want to go back up, stitch up a little higher till you catch it, because that's just going to fray, and you don't want that to fray out. The rest of it, though, as you can see, I think that looks pretty good. I have a thread here from before. There we go. And on this side, I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm just kind of pushing it up. That's not too bad. I'm happy with that. And yeah, there you go. That'll be fine. So we've got one side done. Now we're going to do the other side. So turn it back inside out. It's a little cumbersome. You've got so many pieces that are kind of independent of each other, flailing around. Okay. And we're going to start on one side. Doesn't really matter. We're just clipping for right now. Okay. I do tend to, there we go. I was going to say I tend to start on the other side, but look, here we are. Okay, so this is again the side with the strap connector. It's the side with the zipper to get into the bag. It's the side where we have this separate piece of lining. You need to fold that out of the way, clip it if you need to. But I think you could see if you're using a flatbed, you just don't have to worry about it because you can see it. But I sewed over that so many times, so don't worry. It's fine. And the more you do this, the more you really do get a lot of practice. And I think maybe, you know, there's nothing that says for your interior. Let's say you do want to use waterproof canvas, but you find that it's challenging on this part right here. So, you know, these little bits. There's nothing that says you couldn't use another material. I mean, have something that coordinates nicely, that maybe is cotton of some kind, you know, waterproof cotton or just cotton woven that's interfaced, something like that. There's nothing that says you can't do that. And it might be easier with those pieces. I mean, in fact, you know, it could be, if you have a nice coordinating print there, that could look really, really nice. So consider that as well. Just trying to make sure everything is nicely flat at the top there. Now we'll do the other side. I can see if you are a stapler, stapling up at that top corner would be super handy, super helpful. I'm just used to it enough, especially here on my cylinder arm, that I don't need it to staple up there. But if you're working on a normal flatbed, I think it would probably be very helpful. And that's probably why, I mean, some of my earlier bags, the tops, it was hit or miss whether they were straight or not straight, but if the tops were nice, had nice sharp curves or corners, it was hit or miss because I didn't staple up there. So definitely feel free. Okay, so we're going to start on this side because I'm sewing it on the cylinder arm. So we're going to start here per the seam allowance in the pattern. One thing you can definitely do, I mean, I have, and I think I've shown it on a different tutorial, I've got a built-in guide here, so I can set it to where I need it if I want it. I'll do it right now. But if you have one that's sort of like this or smaller, you can certainly put that in place, so it'll help you ensure that you have it always at the right place. So I'll do that right now so you can see with this one. And I'm going to cut off those right now. There we go. I can go a lot, well, this is an easy part here. There's nothing I need to, no curves, no pieces of fabric I have to keep out of the way. So this is easier for me to just sew straight across. But I am coming up to my curve. And so I'm going to start going a little more slowly here. I want to keep that nice and flat. I can see, so I'm going to back it up so I can do some back stitches there. And don't be afraid to do this either. I started to veer from my seam allowance. The guide is helpful for that. I'm going to come back in. It was getting a little narrow. I was not where I needed to be. And so I'm just going to go back and do it again. Don't feel that you can't do that. If you catch it quickly enough, you could probably just back stitch your way into it. If you don't, just start over. It's okay. Okay, now I'm getting up here. Just kind of holding it in place to keep it flat. You could certainly hand crank this if you need to. I want that to be nice and flat right there. So I'm trying to, hard to reach in here, but let's see, there we go. I think we're good. You can probably see how it really was beneficial though, sewing right at the top the way Linds recommends for that little bit for each one of those. you don't have to worry about it. It's already attached. So when you're trying to do that corner, you're just connecting two pieces that are already attached for that corner. Whereas if it was open, you'd have to complete that and it could shift a little. So it's really handy having that already stitched together. Okay, coming back down to this corner, and this is where I now have a lot going on here, so it can sometimes get a little much. Let me get this flatter if I can. There we go. Avoid any pleats if I can. They happen, and I'm okay. Maybe I'm okay. We'll see. Flattening this out. There we go. Might have a pleat there. I'm okay. I always find the second corner, or second curve, I should say, on the top is a little harder. That's why I suppose I could have done it the way Linds recommended. Yeah, I'm going to have a pleat there. We'll see if it bothers me too much. Maybe not. There we go. Okay. Let's see if I can get that out, actually. We'll see. We'll see what it's like. I can see there's a pleat, so we'll see what I think when I get it out. I do need to, there we go, lift that to go over the strap connector. Can't handle both of that. Okay, let's see how pleat looks at the top. I know there's one there. Oh, I just got my other thread off. Okay, let's see. We're gonna turn it. Okay, I'm glad I didn't put foam in it. This would be hard to turn. This is a stiffer vinyl, so I'm glad there's no foam. I'm okay with this. Okay. It's not quite as pretty as the other side, but this is mine. So let's take a look. You can see we've got a little bit right here. There's a little pleat. I'm not gonna flip out over that. If this were for my Etsy shop, I would. The other thing too, I can see right here, it's not quite as, let me see if I can push that out maybe. It's not quite as nice as I'd like. Let's compare it to the other side. The other side's a little nicer. You can see, I mean, it's just sharper on that side. This side it's curved a little bit. I'm tempted right here. Yeah, the whole side is not quite as nice. I am actually looking at it. Yeah, I think I'm going to try to fix that a little bit. It's uneven. You can see, it's not even. And I want it to be a little straighter. Yeah, so let's see how we fix it. Hope we don't do more harm than good. So I'm going to flip it out. I want to see if I can see those stitches. I'm still not going to concern myself about that pleat. I mean, the pleat that's in there, I'm not concerned about that. I'm actually more concerned about the fact that it doesn't look very straight. And I'm going to be looking at it. Finish this out. It really will help if the whole thing is turned back. So take some time here. Don't worry about that. I'm looking really, I want to see how it looks here. Yeah, I want that to be a little sharper. What I might actually do is, it's this side here. I can see one, we can see it's shifted. Do you see how that came up? I'm not going to worry about that. I think it's okay. I'm not going to pull that out. Even though it just shifted. Don't worry, here you go. You're seeing it in real time. But I want I want it to be a little sharper right there. So what I'm going to do Sit higher in my chair. I'm actually going to do it from this side. The other side is, I'm going to do it right here. I want it to be a little straighter across, and I want it to be a little sharper, that corner. And I'll be able to see it better right here. So, let's see, as long as I can feel it's flat. I'm going to sort of pivot a little. There we go. See if that did anything, hopefully. Let me see how it looks on the other side. Okay, so I need to come up a little here. Let's try that. Sorry, a little itch on my nose. Okay, let's come up here. So the way I'm sewing this right now, this is how you would be doing it if you were on a normal flatbed machine. And so you still want to be careful. You don't want to get pleats in there, and that's where sometimes they can happen. But let me see, how high do I want to go? I want to go right there. I'm going to do a little pivot then. Okay, we're going to see how this looks. Hopefully I didn't just screw everything up. Just wanted it to be a little cleaner, a little sharper at the top. Okay. Once you've got the top out, you can sort of use that grab handle to help pull it out a little bit too. But this is stiffer vinyl. There we go. Here's my clean side. Okay. That looks a little better. I mean, it's not as nice as the other side, but let's see. I think that's a little better. I'm going to pull this all out. Still a little crooked. I can sort of push it up. Here we go. So it's a little better. You can see it's a little, got a little more to it. The other side is definitely nicer looking. Let me kind of go like that. But you know what? This will be fine. This is for me. I'm okay. Still a little crooked there. I could probably push that up. That's me being really picky. It's fine. I'll be fine with it. So, gotta turn it back. Let me just make sure if I look from the front. Yeah, it's fine. We're good. Okay. If I have anyone come up to me while I'm traveling saying, you know, one side of your bag doesn't look as even as the other, you know, I'll probably deck them or something. So, we've got the exterior sides on. Now it's time for the interior sides, or the lining sides. So let's push this out. So you really do want it all to be nicely pushed. There we go. It's going to make it easier. Don't just push part of it out. Push it all out so that you can put it together. Now we're going to do the lining. Same thing as we did before, and we already have it attached, so it's going to make it easier. I'm going to take the tape off. Hopefully. There we go. I'm starting with my mesh side. So I find this to be so much easier. Not that you don't want a nice looking side and seam on your lining, but you're not going to see it as much. So I am not as concerned, especially about pleats potentially at the top, because you really aren't going to see those. You don't want it to be super pleated, but I don't get concerned if there are a few there. Turn this around so I could see it. Yeah, I don't get concerned at all. Okay, tape off the other side. I think if I had used a vinyl that was a little less stiff, had just a little more give to it, that top would be considerably different. I've used the Black Luxe vinyl, which I think this just feels a little stiffer. Maybe I'm wrong. It's Luxe. It should all be about the same. So, you know, that's in my mind. But I have used that and it's been fine. Although I'm trying to think, maybe did I use accessory weight and I just interfaced it well? I might have done that. That would have made a difference. I don't think I did, but otherwise, I mean, if we were thinking of some of the vinyls that you've got at Mormon, like the shale clays, or the clays. Shale clay is one of the colors. The clay vinyls, oh, those would make beautiful sides because they've got a lot of give to them. And the mid weights would be nice too. They're just not as stiff. Other ones, as I said, I had made one some time ago out of from the Oh So Pretty vinyl, which is has a little more give to it, and that worked well. Okay, we've got one side all done here. This is where it can also get a little trickier. As you can see, we've got our two sides. It's not a lot to work with. So you can see if you're doing this on a normal machine, I mean, you have a lot. You're kind of trying to get out of the way. It's just what it is when you get to the lining. So I'm going to bring my hump jumper down and come on, thread. There we go. Same seam allowance that's as noted in the pattern. Nothing changing here. Snip these off. Okay. So I'm getting up to my curve here. You can see there's a lot you're working with, so give yourself some grace and time. Go slowly. It's all okay. Like I said, I'm not concerned about pleats here. Take my foot off the pedal so I don't accidentally do anything to myself. There we go. You know what? I am going to do it sort of the way Linds did right here. It's just feeling really tight. There we go. I'm going to do it so that would come across there. And so this will be kind of the way you would do it on if you're on a flatbed. But I just am feeling, it's feeling really tight in there right now. So I'm going to do it this way. So this is what you would do if you're doing it per the pattern. Sew up one part of it till you get to where the, making sure I'm not sewing through my exterior. There we go. Sew up one part till you get to the top, then sew through the other. I'm trying to keep my exterior out of the way. Just feeling really tight there for a second. So for me, this I thought would be easier. There we go. I don't turn these out for the lining to see that they're okay. I mean, it'll be fine. So for these, I don't turn out. It's really the exteriors where you want to ensure that everything is good. And here's the other side. Let's do the other side. Okay. Oh, that was my pocket that was hanging over the side. That's fine. So why do I see some fabric there? Okay, let's first grab my scissors. I just want to cut these just a little bit. My strap connectors, not a lot, just a little. And I'll burn them and melt them down a little bit. It's always good to have some overhang because you don't want your strap connectors on whatever it is to be right at the edge, because that's a lot of stress right there. I lost one of my little critters. There we go. So I'm just gonna melt this down. that little fluff right there. Hold on. I get really particular about melting things down. Okay. I like them to be melted. See, I really spend some time doing it on all the edges. I want to be able to feel it and have it feel like plastic on the ends. Okay, let's look and see how this is. So we're going to turn the whole thing now around. It can be a little cumbersome because you've got all these pieces here. I still pull from the exterior, don't pull from the interior. Push that out. So you're going to get your first glimpse of the bag as it sort of is. One side is so nice. It's fine. Just a little more curved on the other side. It's okay. Okay, let's. Now what I'm going to do. So I've got the exterior pushed out. Now I want to get the interior sort of pushed into it. So you can see there's my interior right here. I'm going in and just kind of making sure it's nicely in the corners. Push it up there so that it's just feeling it's fitting snugly. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we've got so far. Here is what we've got. That's not too bad. So as you can see, let me zip that. Here is that little bit. I just wanted a pocket on the front so I can put inside when I'm traveling. Especially if I'm traveling to a new city, I might want a map. I mean, I know we use our phones for maps, but you never know. I'm in a museum. I want a map. I want to have hand wipes in there, maybe wipes to wipe something down. You just never know what might be really handy to have in there. I've got on the back, let me punch this out. Well, that looks nice on the back. So I've got, this is where I will be putting those square rectangle rings. So they'll go like this, and my straps will be coming down and they'll hook on here. I suppose I could take that clip off. There we go. I will rivet those so these stay flat. You can see how they kind of stick out like this. I don't like that. So I'm going to rivet those down right there on both sides. I'm going to rivet them right into there. And then if we open it up, I do have my special zipper pulls so that they can clip shut. And we go inside and you can see I've got my slip pocket, there's a zip pocket, and here's the elastic right here, so I can put my tablet right in there, and it'll be very accessible when I want to get it in and out, but I can still get to everything else. Normally, when I've used this in the past and had my tablet, I'd put it way back here, because that's where it just seems logical to put it, but then you have to get everything out. I wanted a way to put it here and have it stand up, and yeah, I thought that would work. So, yay! I do like how it looks, even though I don't like the one side. I like how this is looking. So what we need to do now is sew together the bottom all the way around here. This is the one part where we will have some binding. When we attach the base, we will turn this back inside out, because if you think about it, anytime you do something where you're going to bind, you do have it essentially inside out. So we're going to have it, and we're going to sew this on. Oops, get rid of this. And then we're going to bind it. So what we need to do though first is have this be one piece. And so we want to align everything. On these sides where you've got your seams, I nest those. So I'll have one going in one direction, one going in another. And I start with my side seams right here. Here's another one. So this one sort of already wants to do that. This right here is where we've got the sort of this zipper tab and all this extra stuff. I just sort of go with however it wants to go. It's like, what feels good? Yeah, that's how we're going with it. Same on this side. I sort of feel, what does it want to do? And I fold my seams that way. So, yeah, just fold them however they want to fold. And I'm trying to see what it wants to do. There we go. There we go. Now, I do have this little bit here where it was a little shifted. We'll see. I think it should still be okay. And it just may mean that right here, I might have to increase. Let me bring this over, sorry. So you can see it here. You can see there. You can see how there's this gap. That was my fault. And I didn't take it out. I'm probably just going to need to ensure that when I sew there, that there's a little extra it goes up a little higher, that I make the seam allowance a little wider right there, and it'll be fine. Okay, so I've got the 4 corners done. Now I'm just going to sort of clip my centers if I can, because you still want all of that aligned. If things moved a little, don't worry. I mean, one's on the inside, one's on the outside, so that's okay. But pull things kind of nice and taut so that you can start clipping things. Clip all the way around. This is where I already sewed this part together, remember, because I did the extras where I shouldn't have. So I only really need to sew around these 3 sides. So, still going to use my cylinder arm. Not changing anything here, but we're just basting that together. And I can see I'll have a little, I'm going to trim a little. My lining is a little long in one spot. That's okay. We'll just trim it. So get that under there. I can bring that up. Hold on. There we go. Bring it up to 5. We're just basting. I got a little high there. That's okay. Ah, my clip was in the way. Wait a minute. Something else is in the way. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Now. Okay. The other side. And then, as I said, I had a couple places where my lining was long. I'm just going to trim that. It'll be fine. I think it was right here too. It's okay. I think that's it. Dump it out. Okay. So now that we've got this all put together, it is looking nice. I'm liking how this is looking. I can't wait to put it up next to the purse that I'm also going to be using. I just love this. Sorry, I like to sort of look at, do any of you, once you've made a bag, also just look at it and kind of pet it for a while? Yeah, anyway, so we need to turn it back. We need to turn it back out. So it's wrong side out. Now coming up is another place where if you want to, you can staple. I'm thinking about it right now. I might staple the base on. And so I'm still going to tape it, but I may also staple it just to really be safe, because I want my base to look nice. It's an area where, I mean, fortunately, I would say sewing the base on here, a lot of vinyl here. Sewing the base on is really like sewing a base onto anything at this point, so don't feel that this is different, I think, than any other bag. Oh, so much. Now, clearly I don't have to push it all out because we're just doing the base, but I think it's going to help things align better if you sort of have this the way it should be. Push out. Okay, there we go. So we've got this all set up. I do want to mark my centers on the side while I'm here. I'm going to do that, so I'm just kind of, if I can't. Oh no, my centers are still pretty easily seen. Okay, we're good. We're fine. So we've got this turned like you would do for anything where you're binding. We've got the right sides in, wrong side out, the interior is out. So we want the interior out. We're going to sew it on like this. So we're going to attach it so the right side is in, and we're going to attach it. We're going to sew it at the seam allowance, and then we're going to put some binding, whatever you're using to bind the edges. I'm going to be using the binding tape from Mormino, but maybe use bias tape. Some people like to use fold over elastic, whatever you want there, waterproof canvas. You can use that here. I am definitely still going to put some tape on this. So I'm going to go put some tape on it. I'm debating, as I said, whether I want to staple. I may do that because the corners, you know, you've got a lot going on here. It can be helpful the same way on any other bag where you might have some curves. It might be helpful to have some staples there. So I'll be right back after I put tape on this. Okay, we've got the base taped. I did also get my stapler because I'm going to do a little stapling. I did also here, let me show you. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. I marked my seam allowance. If you are, are maybe not as confident about getting those curves in there, put in, draw on your seam allowance. I mean, we are to a certain extent sewing around the base, the stabilizer that we put on there. But I really always want my curves here to look nice. And there is a lot that goes on those curves. These seams are right around those curves, and it's hard. It can be hard. So don't feel discouraged if the first time you make it, it's not quite as smooth on those curves as you'd like it to be. Don't worry about that. It really is going to be okay. But what you can do if you'd like is draw them on. I did this in pencil because I can always take a wet cloth and wipe it down if I need to, if I see it. But I'm going to be covering with binding, so it's unlikely I'm going to see it anyway. And I just felt that way. It's going to help me as I get to those curves to really ensure that I can see what I'm doing. So certainly do that if you'd like, if it's going to make it easier for you. I'm trying to think, I might not even see it. Yeah, I'm not even going to see it, so it's not going to matter. But if it's going to help you, if you're working on a flatbed and you're sewing with the base side up, hey, go for it. So I'm going to align my centers, which I did have to remark because I couldn't see them on these. So I'm going to first clip them in place. Just a couple on each side to help hold it there. Got a little string here. Let me cut that off. So centers all around. So remember, we've got the right side in so that it is matching the right side, or the exterior in. Maybe that's a better way of putting it because they're all sort of right sides at this point. Okay. And on my sides, I always like to clip a couple. I feel if you just do one in the center and you start to do more, it kind of shifts around a little bit. So I'll start by doing a couple. There's this center. This is the side where I've got my mesh pocket, so I'll just kind of, a little extra going on there. Okay, so I've got tape here to really help it stay in place. Okay. Now we're going to start working into those curves. I like to clip clip, meaning with clips. Clip my curves first and then I'll staple. This is where you can put some snips into your base here if you need to. So if you need some snips to help it fit into the curve, feel free to do that. That's okay. So I'm going to keep using my glitter clips, here we go, to get this in place. And as I get to those curves, if I need to, I will snip it with my scissors. This one feels okay. Let me make sure I look into my light though too. We'll count how many clips are on the ground when we're done here. Okay. Put that back. As I said, I like to do all of my glitter clips first to sort of have everything where I want it to be, and then I'll staple. So I think I'm going to actually here, I feel like I need a couple little snips. So I'm going to just snip in. You don't want to snip as any deeper than what your seam allowance will be, so keep that in mind. We're just going to help it around that curve a little bit. There we go. I think it's going to be okay on that one spot where it was short on my side. I think it'll be okay. Come to this other side. I think here, no, it feels like it's fitting in there a little bit more. Oh, this is stiff. This is going to be hard to turn back, because especially since I decided to use Decobil Heavy, because you know, logic says you should do that when you have arthritic hands. Yay. See, on this side I feel like I need to have a couple little slips or snips, but I really wanted it to stand up on the base in case I was traveling. It's too thick to snip right there, so hopefully that was enough. I think it was. And I really want to ensure that I'm getting the edges aligned here. There we go. Oof, this is good. Okay. Ooh. We're clipped enough, because I'm now going to do some staples, and that's where I can really ensure that things are good, because I can see here this side is really wanting to shift down, so I'm going to bring that up. I'll probably staple there first. So staple within your seam allowance, don't go too deep. This is where it would be nice to have a little bit more of a table. Okay, that went through. It's these curves that I'm most concerned about. I think that'll be okay. I'll put a few random ones in here along the way, because things can still shift, but I'm not as concerned about having many there. We're coming to this curve, and so I'm going to put more there to really hold it in place. All within the seam allowance. Do this side. Let me take a look at it first, because this is another one where there's just a lot pulling, and we want to ensure that it all stays aligned. Here, let me take that off. I think we're pretty good. Pretty good. So you can see I'm sort of tugging on it, really getting it. There we go. Now it's where I want it to be. Sure it's going all the way through. It's thick. So do another one right there. Okay, here again, just a couple of random ones to help ensure it doesn't slide. And now the last corner. Last corner? Yeah, last corner. Okay. Now, if you want, you can do a basting stitch first to just really ensure that everything stayed together. This corner needs it still. I can see it's pulling down. I'm going to fix that. In fact, let me grab I don't like how it's stapled there. So I'm going to remove a couple staples here. Oops, here goes one on the ground. That's okay. I'll find it. I'll vacuum it up. I'm going to remove a couple here because I could see it's still... the base was going too far down. I want to bring that up, because if it starts going down right now, it's going to just keep shifting down. I don't want that to happen. I want that to be all the way at the top. So that would be the thing I would say when you're looking how to kind of put these together. Really ensure that base stays up at the top. I can talk. Okay, I think we're good. We will certainly see. So, as I mentioned, if you were sewing this on a normal flatbed and you did put your seam allowance there, you could just sew right along that and you'd know you've got it. Great. I'm not going to sew it like that. I could, but that defeats the purpose of the cylinder arm, and it's more challenging. I mean, the fact is it really is easier doing it this way, but I will use my guide. That will help me. So I'm just going to start at a flat point, a straight point here. And there we go. And I'm going to bring that up a little bit, not a ton. Cut these off so they're just not in the way. Okay. And just go around for the seam allowance in the pattern. You can see a couple of my staples got high, but I think it's okay. When you get to those curves, just take them slowly. they're going to be thick for some of them. So don't, just take them slowly there. Okay, so now here, remember I mentioned before, I'm going to stop and start over here. It started to slide, and so my seam allowance was getting narrower. So I just stopped. I'm going to go back to where I know it was at the right seam allowance right here. That's good. And let me clip these off. And I'll just start again, because that way it'll be right. Hold on. It's kind of fighting you here, so there's so much going on. I got to crank up my hump jumper over this corner because I can feel it's really thick, so might just be prepared for some of that. I don't want it to create a pleat. There we go. We'll see if it did. I'll survive if it did. I'll be okay. Another big corner here. I'm gonna bring it back up because it's thick again. Working my way around it. There we go. Back down. I'm running out of space. That's one of the bad things about the cylinder arm. I have this little space here. Let me move these. You can see my tray is getting full. But I still... Oh, I don't have any clips left. There you go. I say that as I took off the last clip. One more corner. That side. Well, I might have to go back over that just a smidgen. Okay, yeah. So what you want to do first is take a look around. See, first I'm going to look here. Did it shift at all? And it looks okay because I did those staples. I would hope it would be. But I want to look and see, do my stitches look even? I mean, I've got a little bobble right here I'm going to straighten out. I think for the most part it's okay. I do want to fix this one little bit right here. I felt it as I went over, but it bobbled. So let's get this up here. Get my threads on the other side. There we go, that's better. There we go. Make sure it's nice and even. That's the front. So, sorry. Camera in the bag. Or bag in the camera. Whatever. Okay. I'm going to take my staples out. I think for the most part it all looks okay. Oops, they're on this side. Now, if your bag is thin enough, you could turn it and confirm that it all looks good. This is going to be hard to turn. It looks to me that I did catch everything. I will open and look look inside because I can unzip it and take a look and see if I can confirm, and I'll feel to determine if I did in fact catch everything. Because it'll be a real bummer if you do turn it all and it turns out you didn't sew the base completely. But the staples definitely help. I have had it where, as I have with other bags, where I thought I sewed the base on completely and I turned it and boom, place I missed. So, but I won't need the staples anymore. That one didn't come out. Oh, this is going to be so hard to turn. It's going to be great when it's all done, but man, is it going to be hard to turn. It's, even getting these staples out is a challenge. It's so thick down here. A lot of thick materials. I kind of like that in a backpack. You know, you want it to be sturdy. This one, come on, staple. There we go. So, nope, one more. It's always not a fun thing when you think you've got all your staples. Then you run your fingers there. I'm like, ha, missed that one. Okay, I think that's everything. So let's take a look again. See, it really does look like, the main thing is ensuring that you can see the edge of your base has been clearly sewn all the way around, and it has been. So I'm gonna open this up right here, just from the back. You know, and this is one of those things, if you're always like, oh, I forgot to unzip my pockets. With nylon zippers, you can easily move them. I'm just coming down and I'm feeling all along the edge. I'm hoping I don't really have a lot of pleats, if I have any. I mean, I might, and that'll be okay. I'm not going to freak out if I do. There's a lot there. Looks like there might be one right there. I can feel it. There's a pleat right here. And that's where I had a lot of, I could tell it was really thick sewing over that. I'm just going to leave it. These are lessons you learn when you're doing it. It's like, oh, okay, should I have picked a different material right there? It may also spread out once I turn it. It's all kind of in on itself, so I'm not going to worry. Okay, I think it's fine. I'm going to then take a look and see, are there any parts where I maybe need to trim just a little bit? I'm going to trim just a couple places just to make it nice and even. For our binding. I'll clean up everything on the floor when I'm done. Normally I do this right over my garbage, but then I'd be like right all up in the camera. So I'm doing it right here. It'll be okay. That's pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to bind it. Oh, let me get rid of this thread. I have already prepared my binding right here. I've got double-sided tape on the back of my 1-inch binding that I'm using. This is from Warm Me Now. I'm going to sew it onwards. So I like what Lynn says when she does it, is that she starts hers actually at, okay, let's hold it up this way. This is, if you think, here's the flap. So this is the part that's against your back. We always instinctively want to say, oh, put it towards the back. And so you might want to start it on this long flat part here, but no one's going to see this because it's inside. When you're looking in, this is what you're going to see. So I'm going to start it on this side. And so what I'll do is take this. I like to fold down the end a little just so it's finished, because the end here on this binding tape, I mean, it can fray. So you want to ensure you've either folded it over or you've got it, you sort of melt the end. I'm going to just bring my clips back for a second so I can do this. Don't fall. Let's put them in there. That'll make it easier. There we go. Okay, so we're going to clip this on. Well, if we don't throw the clips on the floor. I am notorious for that. So I'm just taking a little bit of the tape off at a time, or the paper for the tape off at a time, and trying to ensure it's nice and even. Or if anything, you want it to have a little bit more on the side that will be flat down. I'm going to be sewing it here, so if anything, I want a little more tape. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. On this side, because that's the side that's going to be flat against the machine. And sort of think of it as when you're, for instance, if you're sewing on a little edge to the top of a pocket or something, you always have a little bit more towards the back to ensure you don't miss it all. Same thing. So we're going to put a little bit more towards the back here. This would be another great place if you want to use Shannon's method for binding that you can see like in the Rosie, where she cuts a wider piece of waterproof canvas and then we'll stitch one side of it down, fold it over, stitch the other, and that way, and then she'll trim it. So because it is true, your different parts will have thicker areas. You know, the corners here are thicker than the sides because you've got all those seams, and so you really do need a different width for your tape at that point. So I'm okay with what I've got. I'm using black thread. It's black. It'll be fine. But there goes some clips. We're fine. Do have 3/4 inch tape on here, so it's doing a good job holding it down. There we go. I need it at the beginning because I did fold over that part and there's no tape there. Double-sided tape. So. Okay. And probably not being as careful as I normally would be. And part of me is like, I want to see it done. And it's just mine. I do take more care if it's something that I might be putting in my Etsy shop, but and I probably should take more care for my things as well. But I just received this special little notebook that I had ordered. I hoped I would have had it by now, and I'm going to do a special moon dance for it. And so I'm excited to go do that. I want to be finished with this one. I've done this one long enough now. I want this to be done so I can go sew the next thing. Okay, so I have aligned it. Let me see if I can show you here. There we go. This is where the two pieces meet, right here. There we go. So I'm trying to get those as nicely aligned as possible. Shannon really does have a great tutorial on how to do this to ensure that everything is so very clean and even. I mean, hers, it's beautiful. I need to do that at some point. I'm just not going to do it for this one. So we started it on here. That's where I'm going to start sewing this as well. I'm going to bring this down to, not down to, up to a 5. Okay, hold on. There you go. It's fine. We'll just leave it. My little clip thing fell because there's too much going on here. There aren't that many clips, so we're good. Okay, so we're going to start it right in the middle. I don't need that because we're just going to sew down the middle on this. You know, the tape is covering my seam allowance, or the stitches from when we sewed it all together. I'm just going to sew it down the middle. You could do it 1/8 of an inch from the edge. That's the raw edge if you want. It's not a raw edge, but the unfinished edge there. I'm just sewing straight down the middle. And so I'm not too concerned about that. I just want to stitch it on so we've got it in place. So it's covering up the raw ends of the bag. A little slowly over the curves. There go all my clips. Definitely not the cleanest and prettiest binding I've done, but that's okay. I really am okay with it. I think we've all been those who are like, okay, let's just be done. Let's just be done with this. That's where I'm at now. There goes another clip. There we go. You can see how easy it was to get that on. I mean, all I was doing, because I was not being as careful. I totally admit. I did not, the binding is on. It's covering up the raw edges. It's covering up my stitches. But was I as careful as I could have been? Nope. And am I upset with that? No. I have one little spot where I can see 2 little spots. You can see it's got a little bit there where I probably should go over it again. Right there too, so I'm just going to hit that corner, that side I should say, from the inside though, so I can see that I'm getting it. Okay. Clip. Yeah, that's fine. If this were something I was making for someone, I 100% would have used probably a little bit wider binding tape to ensure that it covers the whole thing, but I'm okay with it. This is mine. Oh, so now it's time to turn. Oh, I'm just dreading it. It's really stiff all around, so it's gonna take some time. I am probably going to speed up the video here because it's going to, oh, it's just going to take a long time. And I can see I have a stitch here that didn't sew down very well. Oh, I have a number of stitches. Okay, I'm a little concerned about a couple of things here. Those issues I was having. Sorry, I'm just noticing. There's nothing I can do about it now, although I could glue it. There's a place here where my stitches are coming out. My stitching here, where I stitched on the pocket, is a little loose on one side. What concerns me more is right here. There are 3 places where the stitches came out entirely. It'll be fine. Well, as I said, there's something going on with my machine. I'm not quite sure what. It seems to be okay now, but okay. So turning. Oh, let's see. This, what you do is you just open this up and you're going to turn from in here. It's hard. It can be hard under normal circumstances. Decaville heavy and a light layer of Decaville light. Listen, and then stiff vinyl. So yeah, wish me luck. Okay, so I've got most of it pushed out. I'm using a chopstick to try to really push out some of these corners. They're just so thick. Just a combination of materials here. It's just very thick. This is the side right here. I can tell there's a small pleat. I'm okay. You can hardly tell. As I said, I could feel it from when I was sewing this all together. It's a teeny pleat right here, but once you sort of put everything, start pushing everything out, it's okay. I can see a little bit of my double-sided tape there. I'll get that off later. But overall, let's take a look. Push up. There. So let's see how the base looks. Not too bad. So here's my base. It's not too bad. Like I wish it were part of it. It's just I can feel it's so stiff. Here's that little pleat right there. Maybe oh no, sorry, it's a seam. It feels like a pleat. This is it's just there's so much there. I need to massage it a little bit. I think that'll help also get these nice and straight. But I can feel it's just a lot of thick materials, but still not too bad. That's looking pretty decent shape. So I'm happy with that. Let's zip it up and see. Oops, hold on. I want to work the sides, but I need to feel the inside. There we go. Not too bad. There we go. So still crooked here. That's okay. It's going down this way, whereas this one's nice and straight. I always have one that's crooked. Sews on pockets crooked, sews on sides crooked. You can see the front looks nice there. There we go. So I've got a pocket here, which you can put, and it's going all the way down here. Sewed it all the way into the seam here and on the side. So I've got a deep pocket where I can put things there. If you put the pocket on, I vary where this pocket goes. Sometimes it's about here, sometimes it's here. It just kind of goes where I want it to be. Here we are in the back. And this will all soften a little bit as I start to use it. The back looks nice, as you can see there. So now what we've got to do, well here, let's see if we can show you as much as we can on the inside, the binding. You can't see. I mean, let's see what. Yeah, I can't even get it so you can see it in here. It's too dark in there. Next steps. If you were doing the regular, or per the pattern, would be you'd have your straps here already, and you would just finish them. You'd put the connectors on, and you'd put them on. I did put mine a little higher than usual, but I think that's actually okay. I need to make my straps so that I can do that. I need to put the rectangle rings here and do that with mine. So what I'm going to do though, as I said, I need to finish my straps, but I also want to do some riveting. I'm going to rivet because I'm not going to like this. It's flipping all over. And so what I'm going to do is open this up, and I'm going to rivet right here and right here. Oops, sorry, right here and right here, through both here and through the lining, because that's going to be nice and strong. We've got Luxe vinyl and waterproof canvas, so that's gonna be nice and strong. And I'm gonna rivet those. That's gonna help hold them down and give some extra strength. I'm also going to rivet, bring this down, right here. So I'm gonna pull this strap connector so it's straight, and right there, I'm just gonna put a rivet right there in the side, and that's gonna help keep it flat so it's not flying all over the place. And also I think gives it a little strength too. So I'm gonna do that on both sides. So I'm gonna go do the riveting right now off camera, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up with the straps. Here we go. Looking pretty good, I think. I've got these riveted on. Just put a couple rivets in, and so let me see if I could show you. One thing, I will still link where I got the special zipper pulls, but the finish, I just noticed I haven't even done anything with it. I don't know if it came off while I was doing it, and I don't know how well you might be able to see it, but the finish is coming off already. Sorry, so many things flying around. I don't know if you can see it on this one here, right at the pull, on the, or the part, not the pull itself, the actual zipper right here. It's a little annoying, but it's not like I'm using these on a regular basis, I guess. And the point of them is to try to keep your stuff safe, not to be pretty. So yeah, if we look on the inside, just so you can see where I put the rivets, they're right here on the top. So they went straight through. There we go. Sorry, there we go. Not gonna be able to show you these, but these did also go straight through. These are a little harder to do. I mean, and the fact is, you can see I put these up higher and makes it a little easier, but if I put these lower, it would have been harder still. I used my Japanese hole punch to punch the holes for these because neither my hand one, I guess my rivet press would have probably gotten it, but I'd have to switch out the dies and I didn't feel like it. This one I can see, I might want to redo that one. It's just a little dented here, or at least press it again. I'll at least press it again. This one is fine. This one I can see feels nice, but I put those in. Yeah, this one, we'll see. I'm not sure. Might have to redo that one, but that's okay. That's easy enough to do. So, so now what I need to do is put on the straps. And so we're going to put that like this. So these are going to be straps that are attached. They're not removable straps. I mean, unless I want to rip them apart. I'm going to put this right here. The straps are going to be essentially, normal, I guess you could say. Just think of it, instead of having, oops, no, we have to do this first. Instead of having two swivel hooks, we're going to have one swivel hook, and it's going to connect to the D-ring. So here, what we're going to do first is we're going to put this through here. I've been debating, do I want to sew this or do I want to rivet it? I might just rivet these in place. So you can see we're going to put those there, and then we'll attach the strap here. I could sew it down, but I think I'm going to rivet them. So I'm going to go and rivet these in place, and then we'll just sort of do the strap connectors, or the straps together. Okay, so we are basically done. We just have to do the straps, and I wanted to show first. This was the side here, right here, where I had the rivet that didn't go in well. I decided to take it out. I used, and I thought people might find this helpful. I'll grab this. I've got a set of dies right here that I've got from Cam Snaps that are for removing rivets. I had the normal tools you would use where you have the little punch, you have this where you set your rivet into a little hole that fits the right size. You've got the little tool that goes on top, and you use a mallet. I had that, and it was fine, and I will use it if I need to. But these, I mean, it does essentially the same thing. So you can see here, there's a little part that is what goes down into the rivet, and here, I don't know how well you can see that as a hole, so that it will sort of go like this. And if I go like here, this will be hard to see, but there's some give. It's like this little spring in there. I do a much better job removing rivets with this than I ever did. I can put it on my press right here. I also have a hand press from Cam Snaps or Cam Tools, whatever they're actually called, from Cam. And I use it usually for the this with that. I find it easier. I did have to use my actual press to get it in here because the tool wouldn't have reached that far down, but that's what I did do. So I did remove it. Now the rivet has set crooked. So unfortunately, when I tried to remove it, it kind of created a second hole. Well, that's a problem, obviously. So what I did, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this. Let me see if I can turn it a little. I added some Decaville and a piece of vinyl over it. Hopefully you can see right here. It's glued in. It's glued in pretty well. In fact, I can see some of the glue, but it's glued on there pretty strongly. I probably could put a little bit more if I wanted to on the edges if I felt it would come out, but it's now riveted in, and I can feel the rivet set straightly, so it's fine. I just wanted to do that, so I felt I have this extra hole there from when I removed the rivet, plus the hole from where the rivet was. I wanted it to be stronger. So I put a piece of Decaville Heavy. I should note I used Decaville Heavy, and then a piece of the vinyl, this vinyl here. So it's a Luxe vinyl, nice and strong. Glued it on, then punched a hole back originally through the original hole, through those two new pieces. On the back of my webbing, because I also didn't want that to fray, I used some glue. I burned the back side to kind of really melt it, and I put some glue there as well to strengthen it. So it's not going anywhere is the main thing there. The other thing I did off camera already was I just added these, oops, there we go, these rectangle rings, and I set the rivets for these. So this is what is here right now. All we need to do is add the straps. So I thought we'll just do this really quickly, and then it's done. So let me zip this up so make it a little easier. And so you can either sew it on. I'm going to turn sideways here because my table is right here. You could either sew these on or rivet. I'm going to rivet these. Now, when I created them, I did it per the sort of the instructions I have in a different video where I show how I do strap ends. So I did a long piece of faux suede on one end. This is what's going to go on the slider. And this side here, this is actually just covering the end. It's not sort of the way I normally would do it. But that'll go on the side that will go up through here. So we basically want to, let me grab a slider and I found my rivets here. Okay, let's take our bag. Here we go. I'm setting it up on my garbage can so I can have another table. I don't have enough tables here. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we've got our bag and we've got our rings here. I've got a slider and I've got my swivel hook. So whenever you're creating a bag or a strap, you always start with the slider. And I do have a right side and a wrong side to my strap. The right side has the debossed roses on it. Wrong side is plain black, but I can also tell now which is the right side because I've put this piece of faux suede on, and so that's going to be my right side. So when you're creating your strap, you've got your slider, and you can sort of look at it. There's a side where you can see this sliding part where the metal wraps around so that it will slide here, and then another side where it's flat. So we are going to hold it with the flat side. I've got my strap. The end for me where I've got the longer piece of faux suede, but for you it could just be any end. I'm going to put it up and over, and so right now I have the right side facing up. The wrong side is against the slider. I'm going to bring that in. Bring this, and I want it to be there. We go, because I don't want these sliding around while I'm wearing them. But with the suede, which is vinyl, I want it to be sort of folded in half. So you can see here, I used a 4-inch piece of faux suede. I put the strap down up to 3 inches, so I had an inch overhang. Then that overhang wraps around the end of the strap. the webbing there. That's just how I like to do it. And that way you've got a nice finished edge right there. I'm going to fold it in half so you can see it's now nicely in half. And so we've got the suede here that I can feel. And I'm going to grab a couple of clips just to hold it. Now, I could sew this or I could rivet it. And I think I'm just going to rivet this time. So what I'm going to do, I like to rivet from the front side. So the front side will be, and where I can see the debossed, not embossed, debossed roses. And I've got a pen. I'm going to put 2 rivets in because this is 1.5 inch webbing. So it can handle 2 rivets. And so I'm just going to mark it. I'm eyeballing it. You could use a tool to get them exactly where you want, but I'm just going to eyeball it where I want those to go. Yeah, that looks good. So I've just put 2 dots. I don't know if you can see those, but I'm going to take my, I don't have enough rivets. It's a good thing I know how to count. I think I'm short a couple of rivets, but that's okay. I'm going to punch some holes. I'll do one on camera and then I'll do the other one. That way we won't worry that I don't have enough rivets out. Okay, punch my holes in here. Here we go. Make sure it went through. And put in my rivets. And there we go. Okay. Oh, find your other cap. Okay. Can take those off now. So I've got my 2 rivets. I'm going to set them. So I do have my rivet press right here. When I set them, I put, this is the post part of the rivet with the post, and this is the cap here on the back. I like to set them so that the post is going down into the base of the rivet press, and it's the cap that's on top. I'm going to set those. There we go. So we've got that first part all set. I had to bend down to pick up the cap that dropped, and I did decide to stitch down the bottom. I like the idea of it also being stitched if I can. So now we're ready to attach this to the bag. And so we have 1 swivel clip and we have 1 rectangular ring. And so you want to think about what you normally do for a strap. I mean, this strap, yes, is not normally attached to the bag, but let's pretend these are your 2 swivel clips right here. So when you're putting your bag together, you take your strap with the slider and you hold it wrong side up. Move this over here a little. Wrong side up. So I've got it wrong side up. Here's the debossed roses facing down. I'm going to take my swivel clip. I'm going to put it on upside down right here. And I'm going to have it pass through that way. I'm going to then, and I'm being careful not to twist it, I'm going to put it up and over in the slider. So now at the moment I am looking at it right side up. And you can see, yep, that looks right. Okay. I want to have some slack here while I'm doing this. So I'm going to try to push as much out as I can. There we go. And so now we'll take this, and this is that other part, which we can think of as our other swivel clip. I'm going to put it down so it's the wrong side of the strap here is touching the ring. And I'm going to bring that over. I'm going to go right here. And I'm going to rivet those. In fact, what I'm going to do first is mark where I want those 2 rivets to go, because it'll be easier when it's not attached right there. In fact, I can mark that. I get kind of picky. It's like those 2 are too close. Close together. So I've got my 2 dots there. I'm going to still clip everything together. So again, wrong side touching the metal. Flip this over. Me get a couple clips to sort of help it together. I'll show you. Let me just do this so you can turn it around and see without it falling. Okay, so here's my strap. As you can see, clip together right here. I'm going to punch a couple holes. Turn it around so I can see it. What I will do is punch one and then put in the rivet and then punch the other. There's one. Let's put in that rivet. Hopefully. There we go. There. Now I'm going to do the other one. I'm trying to hold it nicely so it doesn't move around much. And that rivet. Hopefully they're not crooked. I'll put dots down for my rivets, and next thing you know, I'll punch them and they'll still be crooked. Like, yeah, whatever. That's fine. Like these, but yeah, it looks right from the front. So you can see, here we go. I'm going to quickly set these on my rivet press. Hopefully things don't move around like that one just did. I'm going to set that one again. There we go. Okay, and now, yep, that one's okay. We have our strap, so I can tighten this up. I can hook it on down here. There you go. So let's get the other one on. And it's done. I got it done. I got the second strap on. So you can see I've got the two of them here. Here's one. Here's two. Looking pretty nice. So we've got the front pocket where I can put things I just need to grab really quickly. So I wouldn't be putting my phone, my wallet, anything like that in here. But hand wipes, regular wipes, maps, hand sanitizer, any of those little things that I want can go in here. So you can quickly grab them without having to take off your backpack entirely. Or rather, I can have my husband go in and grab them. I'll say, can you get this out for me? Because it will be on my back. And then on the back, we've got the two straps. So I've got it so you can undo one side, or actually you can undo both at the bottom, but they're connected. That way, if you're somewhere where you're concerned about people snatching your bags, I'm going to be traveling to some places with a lot of high traffic tourist areas. And that's not uncommon. You put your bag down, someone comes by and quickly takes it. But what you can do is take this off, wrap it around the leg of your table or your chair, and it's unlikely to go anywhere then. So we've got that set. I did put these into the middle so that they're a little closer to my neck, less likely to fall off my shoulders because I do have broader shoulders. I definitely need something like that. I put on special little zipper pulls that are, as I said, the finish was coming off of one, but the goal is to keep it safe. There are other ways you can achieve this, but I decided to use these. And then inside, I've got this elastic that I put on the flap. I already tried it with my other tablet. I'm using one right here to record or help me with the recording, but I did try it with my other, and it's perfect. This is going to stretch a little bit and kind of relax the elastic well, but even right now, it fits perfectly. It holds my tablet right there, so it doesn't kind of flap back and forth. That was the goal. I wanted to have a place without a sleeve. I couldn't put a sleeve here because it is a little bit wider, but it'll be perfect for what I need. And then inside, I've got a pocket right here, so I can stick some things there. Again, they're nice and secure. People can't reach in to get them. A couple quick little slip pockets here. I then have also over here a little mesh pocket, so quick place to put stuff. And then if I do want to carry my water bottle, I have some elastic right here to help hold it in place so it doesn't fall all over. And I've got some purse feet, so it'll help it when it's standing, well, I guess on the ground. So yeah, I'm overall happy with it. I mean, one side ended up being not quite as straight as the other, but that's okay. I can live with that. It'll be nice for when I travel, as I wanted something that was help me. I would feel secure wearing it, that the contents were safe. That would be stylish. I think this has a nice stylish look to it, and that would match my purse. Here it is. Sorry. Match the purse that I made. So there's slightly different vinyls, but close enough that I think you know, you'd have to really look to notice that they're technically different. But it looks nice, they match. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.